What's good, you guys? Continuing the BeerBiceps Punjabi food legacy, today we're combining high protein chickpeas with the charm of Punjabi cooking, of course. This is my Chhole Masala recipe. Chhole Masala is the most delicious thing you'll ever taste, but it's a two-part process. So let's take up part 1 first, the chole or the chickpeas. Now, if you want the perfect softest chickpeas, you gotta soak them in water for 6 to 8 hours. After you soak them, they're gonna double up in volume. Punjabis prefer taste. So if taste is a factor for you and time isn't that big a factor, I'd advise you guys to soak it for 24 hours. So after it's soaked and expanded like a beast, you can transfer your chickpeas to a pressure cooker. Now, a pressure cooker is going to hasten up the process, but it's also going to give you those perfect soft chole for that chole masala. Also, you got to make sure that your chole are completely immersed. So make sure you add enough water or else it's going to turn out dry or burnt. Optional step, you can add just about a tablespoon of split Bengal gram or chane ki dal to the mix. This acts as a natural thickener for the chole masala, and ain't no one got a problem with that. Next step, season it generously and then proceed to add about a teaspoon of Ajwain or Carom seeds. This kind of gives a very slightly perfumey flavor to the chole, and honestly I feel that it's crucial you add it. Also adds that Punjabi touch to this chole masala. Now here's what sucks. When you're cooking chole, sometimes the skin of the chickpeas tend to disintegrate. So to prevent that, we're gonna go in with just a little bit of ghee. Half a teaspoon. Next, get your hands on a couple of cloves of garlic, crush them as much as you can to release their natural flavor, and then add it to the mix. The next step is that you gotta make sure you give your chole a good half an hour on a slow flame to just make sure that it's really well cooked, and then rest it for about another 15 minutes. So after about a total of 45 minutes of cooking, you can witness the birth of the perfect chickpeas. And if you want to make sure it's cooked, just take one of them and squeeze it. If it's completely squishy, that means it's perfectly cooked. So if you're new to cooking, which I think a lot of you are, you gotta keep in mind that stalks, this liquid from the pressure cooker from cooking the chickpeas, has bags of flavor, and you want to save up all that flavor to be used later in the masala. So make sure you save up all the stock. Now cooking the chole does take 45 minutes, but in those 45 minutes you can begin work on part 2, the masala. And the masala always begins with an onion for sweetness, finely chopped of course. Next, a thumb-sized piece of ginger that you julienne into these little strands. This adds texture and little bombs of freshness in the middle of your chole masala. The key ingredient for a Punjabi chole masala, tomato or tomatoes. So you finely chop them first and then blitz them up in a mixer to get this gorgeous tomato puree. Great Punjabi curries are all about that luscious tomato puree. So 2 tomatoes pureed like this and we're good to go. This is ground garam masala. It's the king of Indian spices and the emperor of Punjabi cooking. But in this case, let's go with whole garam masala. So if you don't have time, you can go with the powder, but if you want maximum Punjabi flavor, go with the whole spices, starting with the bay leaf at the top and in a clockwise direction, cinnamon, coriander seeds, cloves, and Anar Dana, which is specific to this particular dish. That's dried pomegranate seeds, next coming to pepper and a bit of cumin. So I'm going to take all the whole spices except for the bay leaf and crush them by hand, not in a mixer. Now here's the thing with Indian cooking. You ask any person who follows traditional Indian cooking methods and they'll always crush spices by hand. If you grind spices in a mixer, they lose a bit of their punch. So if you want maximum flavor and maximum oils from those spices, do it the old way, do it by hand. A super crucial element of the perfect chole masala is the most perfect kadai, the perfect iron vessel. This vessel is made of cast iron. It conducts heat like a bouse, and more importantly, it adds a very smoky depth of flavor to the masala. So when you're cooking the ideal chole masala, ideally use a cast iron vessel. Go in with a bit of ghee of course, because this is Sada Punjabi channel. And for those of you wondering why I pick ghee over other fat sources in my dishes, read up on MCTs. That'll answer your question. Maybe I'll make a video on it at some point. But for now, all you need to know is that it adds flavor and it's super healthy for you. So once all your ghee is melted in that hot pot, you can go in with your crushed bay leaf to get things started. Also, feel free to go in with lesser ghee if your calories don't allow it, but we want maximum flavor. And maximum flavor comes through caramelized onion. And caramelized onion comes with a lot of ghee. Now you gotta saute the hell out of those onions till they reach a deep dark brown color. The darker it is, the sweeter it is. And the sweeter it is, the more it's gonna complement your chickpeas. The onions aren't ready yet, but that doesn't mean we can't go in with our juliennes of ginger. So go in with the ginger and saute for another 5 minutes. So once your onions have changed color to this golden goodness, you can go in with tomato puree for excess sweetness and excess depth of flavor. As with most Punjabi cooking, you gotta saute the tomato puree till it separates from the oil. So that essentially means that when it's kind of dry. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the ideal base for the chole. So go in with the remaining chole or chickpeas and just let the masala do its magic. Remember those masalas that we'd crushed? Now this is the point where we're going to extract all their oils. So go in with about half a teaspoon of ghee and then proceed to add all those crushed whole spices and just let it sizzle away. So let the spices sit in the oil and get all the oils extracted, but make sure you don't let it sit long enough for them to get burnt. So once you feel like they're smelling nice and toasty, make sure you get all that spice scented ghee all over the chole masala. The final step, remember that stock that we saved up from the cooker? That goes in now. So all that flavor from the chole, the spices, the onion and the tomato is going to be even more enhanced from this watery goodness. So add a bit of salt and just bring it to a boil. So after it's nice and boiling, bring it back down to a low heat and just let it simmer away. From this point onwards, it's your call. The longer you cook it, the thicker it'll get. So if you want watery chole masala, let it be. But if you like your chole nice and thick the way I do, keep cooking it till you get your desired consistency. So after about 10 to 15 minutes of simmering away on a low flame, your chole masala is ready. You can serve it up as it's traditionally served up with a few puris, which are deep fried unfortunately. But hey, we're talking about the taste factor here. And in terms of taste, there's no other dish that comes close to the chole masala. Oh yeah!